What plays did I take today? What were the news on all these things today? What were the results? Why did we play them? I'm basically giving you my trader journal for the day. Okay? So for those of you guys who were in the morning call this morning, we talked about all of these for one reason or another. All right. Number one, why NEO? Okay, the reason that I took NEO this morning was one of the several reasons I played at the same time last week and was successful on it. First piece of news, China. Okay? We're seeing Chinese stocks up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Why? Because everyone has been selling off Chinese stocks, not because of their economy, not because of COVID, but concerns of delisting, right? Nobody wants to be caught holding shares that get delisted and then they lose all their money. They'd rather sell for a loss than lose money. So concerns about delisting. 2 weeks ago, we hear, hey, China has come out and said we are going to work together with regulators to make sure that we don't have delisting problems, and we're going to support big tech. We've been hard on big tech, but we're going to support it, right? And we saw Chinese stocks fly for 2 days. BABA went up from $79 to $100 in a couple of days. We saw these stocks fly, and then they were down, and then they started moving up on more news about coming into compliance, and everybody was happy again. And then last week, Gensler, the SEC chair, said, no, we haven't made any deals with them. They're not in full, we want them in full compliance before we take it off the table. Also, we're going to add Baidu, whatever you want to call it, to the list of possible delistings. Stocks fell again. But then we got some news on Friday that NEO, along with XBEV and Lee, smashed their deliveries. And then this morning, we get announcements that China has again said, we're going to work with U.S. authorities. We're even going to make steps to allow the full auditing of our companies. That's huge. Could be bad down the line because we might find out that a lot of these companies have been lying about their numbers. But in the short term, that's huge on the road to not getting delisting. And what does that mean? That means China has the most equity value in the world right now. If for some reason investors believe that they're not going to have any more problems and that their government's actually gonna be cool with them, let them run a little bit free, and they're not going to get delisted, you're talking about the serious most value in the world in Chinese stocks right now. Okay, BABA's 200% from its all-time high, right? And stocks like that. So NEO is part of that. They got the good news on deliveries, and they got hit with a 41% price target upgrade today. Take all that into consideration. I'm expecting people to jump into NEO, right? That doesn't mean it's going to go forever. It doesn't mean it's going to hit the price target. But with all that news, there's going to be a lot of money that flows in early. So I'm going to capture that money. So that was that. That was a 50% options play win. Twitter. News on Twitter is, and I'm not accusing him of anything once again, but I find it very coincidental, that Elon Musk a couple weeks ago, or last week I guess it was, said, hey, guys, do you think we need an alternative to Twitter? Twitter is not allowing free speech. Do you think we should have an alternative to Twitter? And everybody said yes, right? And then they all remember their poll from when he said, do you think I should sell 10% of my Tesla stock or whatever? The whole manipulation thing, potentially, right? Allegedly or coincidentally. Twitter fell after that because they thought, oh, wow. I mean, we saw how many people went to DWAC and the Truth platform. If Elon did one, everyone's going to go there. So Twitter fell. Then a week later, we find out, hey, I was just kidding, guys. Oh, by the way, I bought this dip and I own 9% of the entire company now. And now it's up 25% this morning. So I said to myself, I know the Elon effect. I know the fanboy effect. I'm not going to buy this at open. I'm going to wait for people that aren't the fanboys to unload their bags, and I'm going to buy that dip, right? And so we saw out the gate, it moved, it went like this, and then it dipped. And so I bought that dip, and then it got back to 49. It said some resistance. I sold half my position there. It bust through, and I sold the other half. Now I don't care what happens. It's not my problem anymore. I handed that off to somebody else. I knew it was going to have high volume. I knew it was going to be volatility. I waited for my entry, waited for a little bit of a flat line, and then jumped in on it, okay? CRIS. This is a complete, I don't know what they do, dead cat bounce. And I'll do a separate video on dead cat bounce. Got in at what did we get in at? 150 something, and we sold at 160, so that was a 10% on shares. I'm already out of that. This was just the FDA is halting their trial, so they fell 37%. I waited for a bottom, checked the volume. Volume was pretty high, sitting at that one level right there. And so I said, okay, it's sitting at $1.50, and every time it dips below, it buys up. Dips below, buys up. Dips below, buys up. Okay, fuck it, let's play it. That's a lot of gap for people to play. That's 75% to the upside. Ran, sold at 166. 10%, I'll take my money and I'll go. All right, Jumia. All right, so what was the deal with Jumia? What did we talk about this morning in the morning call? So Jumia, for those of you guys who don't know where, is one of the previous meme stock, before meme stocks darlings, okay? Jumia was one of the original pumps and original runs by Wall Street Bets back in the day when there was a lot of others before the GameStop thing, right? Jumia, everyone called it the Amazon of Africa, okay? Because they are like, Flipkart to India, which Walmart owns, all in Walmart. This thing used to run like crazy. Every little piece of update, this was one of the original meme stocks. It kept going and going and going, and then it crashed, and then everyone forgot all about it, and it fell, and it fell, and it fell, and it fell, and it keeps falling. No real news coming out. But somebody like me, I remember this stuff. I remember it. I can't forget stuff. So I remember this name. I remember the numbers behind it. I remember the amount of money they were making versus losing. And then I remembered Africa is not a continent like other continents where it's actually connected, right? Egypt has nothing to do with South Africa. Nambia has nothing to do with Morocco. Congo doesn't deal with the Ivory Coast, right? It's very spaced out. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of racial divide. There's a lot of corruption. It's not the type of continent right now that you can have a network of infrastructure and logistics and on a continent-wide scale. It's just not going to happen. But that doesn't mean it can't in the future, right? And that's what people are believing in. I don't know if they're ever going to be the Amazon of Africa. I don't see it happening until there's some kind of cohesion on the continent. But that's not why I played it. I'm not in this for the long term. I'm trading this. And so the announcement this morning was that Jumia partnered with UPS. Holy shit. A large company that actually has a fleet of planes and knows how to run logistics. Is this going to pan out for UPS? I don't know. But you know what I do know? I know that that's a big deal, and that's going to wake up a sleeping giant. What do I mean by wake up a sleeping giant? You know how many people are still bag holding Jumia and they're down 80%? Or how many people remember Jumia and say, I've been waiting for that catalyst. I've been waiting for that catalyst. There it is, boys. Now's the time. Now I knew if I just waited long enough, there'd be an entry. So you know what I said? Fuck it. They're gonna jump in. I'll ride the wave with them. And just like a wave that's going over in the ocean, listen, I'll hang 10 with you, buddy. But I know there's a reef up there, so I'm a bail right here. And then you can try to hope that wave takes you over the reef, or else you're going to get caught up in the coral and XX blood everywhere, and then the sharks come and eat you. That's up to you. I'm going to ride that wave, okay? But I'm getting off early. So I got in, and at 9:37 a.m., I bought, only half my contracts got filled, but I bought 20 contracts at $37 a piece, or $30 a piece, or whatever it was, $35 a piece. And then 3 minutes later at 9:40 a.m., I sold 20 of them for $45 a piece or something like that. I don't fucking know what it was. So I thought it was 15%, whatever. I made like $300. Now, sure, it kept running and shares went 30%. If I was in shares, this wouldn't have happened to me, because with shares, I could put a stop loss on it and I would have made 30% on the shares today. But it awoke the sleeping giant. We're absolutely fucking dead on. Because I'm trying to think about retail traders and large firms and where the money's going to go. Because remember, a lot of trading is done by algorithms or momentum or volume. Starbucks. Starbucks was the only play that I was focusing on to have a very bad day today. For those of you guys who remember this morning and you guys were in the morning call, you remember that we talked about the downside play of the day, if the market turns or just whatever. Starbucks. What was the news on Starbucks? Number one, unionization. Unions are exploding. Amazon got its first union, meaning that unions aren't going to slow down. Unions are bad for business. Not that I'm anti-union, but they're bad for business. And Howard Schultz has come in his first day, and they have announced that they're stopping all buybacks. They had already planned on doing about $1 billion in buybacks, but they're stopping that now. What does that mean? The chances of the stock pushing up because of the supply demand from a buyback is bad. It's gone. So we saw Starbucks drop 5%, and I bought some, and then it kept falling. But for me, I'm looking at this from a standpoint of what is the market sentiment today? Market sentiment was very, very bullish. And so if I can find a bottom on Starbucks, I know people are going to buy this because everyone's waiting to price in what investors are pricing in this at. And then they're going to say, okay, they're going to eventually bring back buybacks. The company is still fucking Starbucks. Okay, Becky's are there. Yeah, they've got more competition these days, but their exposure in China is huge. And they're moving on to Alipay, and they're on Baba Express, and they have so much goddamn potential to the upside with the China move that they have, that they're going to come back in the future. But does it take a year? Does it take 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. At 85 bucks, I'm a fucking buyer because it was 120 bucks 6 months ago or something, right? So that's what I was waiting for, is where the buyers come up. Then we saw the volume build up and I said, all right, I'll take calls here. And there we are, 30% up already today. FUBO. This was a degen play. This is just based on trends. This wasn't in the morning call. This right here was not something I talked about this morning. This is something I played based on my experience in the past with FUBO and how it runs on the daily. I got in and got out quick. All right. I've seen FUBO when it runs like this, and then whenever it has that run and then it sells off on low volume, it always just buys back up and then flags out to the end of the day. Sometimes has a little spike at the end of the day, and then the next day it's like down 7% or something like that. So I bought the dip and I sold right here. That was it. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the news, the trader psychology that I was thinking was going to happen, what my plays were, what my thought process was. Luckily, they were all W's today. Where I got in, where I got out, and I just gave you my daily trading journal. And we're up 20% on the day. Where do I get this info? I spend a lot of time in the morning. Well, that's why you guys see me, I try to stay out of Discord in the mornings because I don't want to get distracted. But you guys see me in the Discords at 5:36 a.m. because I'm looking at news. I'm looking at markets around the world. I'm looking at, what different leaders have said. I'm just looking at stuff, and then I formulate my trades for the day.